Time for our next discussion, and hard times are already here for the federal government as its debt servicing exceeded retained revenue by as much as 310 billion naira in the first 4 months of 2022. Now, this is the first time the country's debt service to revenue ratio will hit or exceed 100%. Detailed analysis of the overview of the fiscal position of the first quarter, that's from January to April, showed that the federal government spent 1.93 trillion naira on debt servicing, which was about 20% higher than the retained revenue pegged at 1.63 trillion naira for the same period. Now in the studio with us, we have our guest, Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu, a political economist, joining us for a detailed analysis of this particular, discussion. Good morning, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to be with you this morning.
All right. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much.
Only recently, the Daily Trust newspaper did a story that said that Nigeria borrowed 225 trillion in 20 years. And within that period, it only earned 114 trillion. So it borrowed almost above half of what it earned.
Yes.
And it has to pay back that money that it owed.
Yes.
How do we go? How does an economy go about something like that?
You see, every nation that wants to grow must produce and earn from whatever it produces the sum total of monies, expertise, technology it needed for innovation, growth, and development. In the case of Nigeria, reverse has been the case. We lay emphasis on sharing without emphasizing production. In once what a nation earns or produces is less than its liabilities, that nation is doomed. In this country, we emphasize sharing. We are good at consumption. We are not good at production. That is one aspect of the problem. The second aspect of the problem is the issue of corruption, where you have vested interest straddled along all the value chains of production. It is in these countries that people that do not own farms are given loans. So what are they going to produce? Where the farmers are looking for farm input, they cannot get. And even if government should produce those very particular farm inputs, you have a lot of vested interests that are giving all of this without having farms.
But first of all, let's go to the basis.
Yeah.
Should we be borrowing so much? I know that a lot of countries borrow. Even the United States, which is the largest economy in the world, borrows.
Yes.
But in Nigeria's case, are we getting value for what for the money borrowed?
We're not getting value for the money borrowed. Let us take Operation Feed the Nation. Way back in 1979, Operation Feed the Nation was designed to revolutionize agriculture so that there will be surplus of food production, and then there will be export, and then we earn from that. But what came out of it? Let us take Green Revolution. Green Revolution is targeted at agriculture. The ADP, Agricultural Development Program. All of these are programs that were heavily funded from loans from IMF. And what became of them? Nothing. So you have a nation that does not even track what it spends, how much it has spent, what the people that get those loans and the repayment, everything. Nobody is tracking anything. So it's more or less like we develop a program, and then we get funding for it, and we get the money, we spend the money, and that is all. And we move on. No post-mortem. Nothing is done to say, okay, what are the lessons learned from this very particular venture? Why did we fail? Why should we want to fail again? What are the measures to be put in place? So it is more or less like in this country, we learn nothing, and we just do our thing as if we are in a world that is different from the world that others are operating from. Like the America you're talking about, like Malaysia, like other countries that you're talking about, like the UAE. How did they succeed? Two things: character only. That is what they reformed. We want to develop. How do we develop? We must do things that will attract people to believe in us and trust us with their resources. And they set to work. So they go to a desert, and they said we want to turn this desert to oasis. And the only money we want to sink is, say, 10% of the cost. The remaining 90% of the cost is coming globally. And they sank the 10%, and the global individuals bring the 90% because of what? There is trust, there is integrity. So what is happening in Nigeria? If today somebody calls you that there is mortgage financing going on and they give you the flyer, what will you do?
All right, well,
the
federal government, has actually said we won't see an end to the borrowings anytime soon, and they will keep borrowing to fund, projects in Nigeria. And the minister for Budget and National Planning has actually supported that statement, saying that, it is not a debt sustainability problem, but a revenue challenge.
Yes.
And before he takes that question, they said that they will not stop borrowing to fund infrastructure and all of that. But only recently also the Accountant General of the Federation, the one that was just replaced, said that Nigeria was also borrowing to pay salaries.
Yes.
So it's one thing to even borrow for infrastructure, but also borrowing to pay salaries.
You see, let us face the reality before us. Nigeria is heading towards state collapse. What has happened in Sri Lanka? That the government declared itself bankrupt.
Is Nigeria's situation really that bad?
No, we're heading towards that. Let us be real. Let us understand the magnitude of the problem, so that if we are called upon to make the required sacrifices to sustain the Nigerian state, we could be able to do that. Not saying it the way it is more or less like playing the ostrich, where you bury your head in the sand and the whole body is outside. Now, it started like that in Sri Lanka. So the government at a point will say, we can no longer provide this, and the people are hopeful. We can't provide that, the people are still hopeful, until such a time that the state said, we can no longer do anything. We don't want to get to that situation. There are so many things that are happening in this country that has led to where we are.
Okay.
And Nigeria, that was contributing to the Commonwealth, contributing to UK's coffer, borrowing people money or countries money at independence, is today saying that it is continually borrowing money to provide social services. Something is fundamentally wrong somewhere. And what is that thing that is wrong? You can't combine two things. You can't combine an economy that is based on cronyism, where no matter your capacity to add value, no matter the kind of services you are able to provide, you need somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody in order to get an approval to start your business. Now, once you do that, the cost of doing business is ballooned. And then people run their business in order to make profit. The margin of profit and the margin of what you are giving the people, that is, I'm coming to that issue of corruption and abuse of public offices. This is one of the fundamental reasons why we're not developing. Now, what you need to do within 3 hours, for instance, in Kenya, they are our competitors. Ghana, they are our competitors. Even Benin Republic here. You go to Benin Republic, you want to clear your car, within 1 hour you were done. In Nigeria, it takes you 1 week. In fact, your car is in Lagos. The person that will make the connection for you to get the car cleared is in Kano. And then you bear the cost of the person to go to Lagos to go.
Why do you need somebody to make connection for you to clear your car? I mean, there's a process, right?
There's a problem.
There's a laid down procedure on how to clear car.
That is the issue.
So why do you need?
That is the issue of vested interest, where the people that want to follow, we've seen all of this. Though things are gradually changing, we've seen some of this. You go, you want to do something even as little as driver's license, you want to do it and you join the queue, you are required to spend a week or two. And somebody who comes now that knows somebody within the system get it done.
All right.
So
Sorry to cut you.
I want to do that. I said two things. If you run your economy.
All right, but just hold your thought. We need to take a short break. When we return, we'll continue from where you are. So we'll take a short break now. All right, welcome back. And we are still on to Daybreak on Trust Television. So before we went on the short break.
All right. The last one, where you have a nation where the pursuit of public interest, it revolves around the pursuit of private interest. Anybody that is given ID card is given ID card to pursue his own interest. So for all the new houses that are springing up built by individuals, all the new cars, the new things you're seeing are more or less like the depletion of the public wealth. And this is what we refer to as corruption in this country. So once you have such a situation, even developmental programs and projects are not pursued for the fact that it was going to add value to the common man. It is pursued to satisfy the interests of those that are involved. And that is why most of the developmental programs that would have contributed to uplifting the economy in this country ended up failing. The failure is not because we are incompetent. The failure is not because we don't know what to do. The failure is the overwhelming pursuit of private interest in public space. And this has continued to bleed appropriation. So where you have subsidy that's supposed to subsidize small, medium-scale industries, it ended up in the hands of people. Where power is not there, and you are subsidizing, say, importation of diesel and fuel, and then you have subsidy scam, where all the monies go back to private individuals, then businesses will continue to fold up, and government will not be able to have taxable income, because income is generated by producing and by taxing private individuals that are into business.
Okay, well, how about, insecurity, the insecurity challenge? How has the war, with insecurity compounded, the debt issue?
Of course, significantly, that is another problem. And that was why I said there are so many angles to this issue that we're discussing today. If you take the Northeast is the gateway to the economy of the Sahara or the Sahel, as the case may be. If you take the Northeast up to Saudi Arabia, up to Yemen, up to Syria, there is this interconnectivity in terms of flow of people, goods, and services. Equally, illegal products like arms that are always coming to the shores of this country. That very particular gateway in the last 12 years has been faced with tremendous challenge that has been brought by Boko Haram. So most of the traditional trade routes, the trans-Sahara trade route that we inherited from our forefathers, that is generating a lot of income. Because this is how it happens. Those countries supply us grains as well as animals. Down from Chad, Cameroon, through Borno State, come down to Kano, from Kano down to Lagos, Port Harcourt, and Enugu. And then from there, because they have ports, imported products equally found their ways down to these particular countries through these channels that I've mentioned. That has been greatly curtailed because most of the trade routes have been closed. It has become the route that they used for trafficking of arms for Boko Haram and other bandits. Now, if you take the water route through Taraba State, from Taraba to Benue, from Benue to Enugu down to Port Harcourt, and then through the creeks again back to Lagos, that route is called suffering, is bleeding. Because the traditional article of trade primary product that we produce, especially the North Central, the issue of others farmers clash, that has equally reduced production. Even if you produce, you cannot transport to market. The same thing is happening in the Northeast. The same thing is happening in the Northwest. So where farmers cannot go to farm, those that are willing to farm cannot go to farm. Even if they farm, they can't harvest. Some of them are suffering cattle rustling, where you have the bandit come, rustle their animal, and then they transport it across the borders and they sell them. All of this is leading the country to bleed in so many ways. First, the country has to maintain its army and other security personnel. That costs a lot. You need to procure arms and ammunition because the kind of weapon they are using is sophisticated, especially what is happening in Mali and Libya. Most of the arms from Mali and Libya always find their ways into the Nigerian borders because of the proximity and the porosity of the border. So all of this, again, is bleeding this country. One, you cannot produce. Even if you can produce, you cannot transport to market. The arms are equally flowing. That is compounding the problems.
All right.
The budget, again, is being tilted towards the military, you know. So all of this is taking money out of the economy instead of enhancing multiplier effect.
All right, you have enumerated many of the problems that are affecting production and supply and all of that. And, you know, apart from the government borrowing, states also borrow.
Yes.
So, and it keeps increasing the debt servicing profile.
Yes.
Can Nigeria continue on that path?
No.
If, then what can be done?
No. In fact, if you ask me, the weakest link in the chains of transformation in this country are the states. It's only one state that has come forward to say we could run our state without depending on federal allocation. And that is Kaduna State. Out of the entire state we have in this country, we would like to see a situation whereby all the states could say we can run our state without depending on federal allocation. But I bet you, what has been happening in this country is they relax, close to the end of the month, they come to Abuja or they send in their representative and then they share money and they go back and they engage in all frivolities in the name of development. And even the key component of developmental projects that government is embarking on or initiatives or programs, they will never key into that. I give you an example. If majority of the state are key into the Anchor Borrowers program, as we witnessed, where federal government was investing heavily in the development of the rice value chain. That very particular experiment has led to a revamping of more than, I think, 20 of fertilizer blending plants. As a result of that very particular program, we have so many rice mills that have sprung up. And now today, people are still complaining that the cost of rice is very high. What we are looking at is more people going into rice production, more people going into rice milling. And with that, you have a crash in the price. But instead of doing that, we keep complaining. Now, if most state government are key into federal government infrastructural drive, now if you take the REGP, the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, though it has elapsed now, if you look at it very well, it's a very rich document that diagnosed the problem of Nigeria. And part of the thing that was noted was lack of transportation infrastructure that could move people, goods and services from one point to another. And that if that very particular problem can be solved, almost 50% of our problems have been solved because it will facilitate the evacuation of goods and services from the point where they are produced and cheap to where they will earn value for the individual and the state. Now, assuming the state government key into that program by constructing state-owned roads, especially rural feeder roads that are linking markets to production centers, the issue of high cost of production and transportation would have been eliminated. But what do? We build underpasses and overpasses, and we take a snapshot and say we are developing our
Well,
states.
implementation of some of these policies has actually been an issue, you know, for Nigeria. And we also have Bismarck Rwani, you know, saying that the reason why the country's debt is actually rising is because the cost, the interest rate has actually increased, you know, and this is making the debt refinancing more expensive. So aside, you know, generation of revenue, what other solutions, you know, does Nigeria have to or ought to put forward, you know, to radically reduce the debt?
You see, there is no easy fixes for all of these things that we're talking about. At a point in China, rice was rationed because it cannot go around. And people were promised that in no distant time, we're going to overcome this challenge. And the people believe the leadership. And today, rice is served the way we buy granite on the street in China. But how many Nigerians are willing to make that sacrifice?
Well, on that, you know, each time the government says Nigerians should tighten their belt, Nigerians should make sacrifices. But a lot of people complain that It's the low-income people that are actually making the sacrifice because cost of governance doesn't go down. Governors do not will not reduce the number of maybe the convoys that they travel with. They still go abroad as much as they want. So if you're talking about tightening the belt, where should it start from and how do we go about it?
Well, no, I was coming to what you've just pointed out because the issues are interrelated. You cannot just pick one and then you say that is just the solution. It is a sacrifice across the spectrum. And it's supposed to start from the top because trust is very important. I made mention of something, integrity, which transform UAE. It's integrity. We can do this. Trust us. And you trust them, they deliver. But in the case of Nigeria, always, people, the leadership will come, trust us. You trust them at your own peril. And Nigerians have devised means to survive. And this means they've devised is what we are saying is our own doing. So if we must be able to surmount this challenge, it should start from the top. First, abuse of public office should stop and must stop. 2, if you make a promise, deliver. The basis for trust is making a promise and delivering on your promise. If you fail to do that, if you come back to me tomorrow, I will suspect you and I will never accept what you are telling me. So the basic thing that is lacking in this country and is all across board is trust deficit.
Okay, now just, quickly, wanted to share your thoughts on this. Now, the IMF, that's the International Monetary Fund, has warned that debt servicing may actually go up 100% of the federal government's revenue. That's in 4 years. That's by 2026, thereby wiping the country's entire earnings. So what is the likelihood, what is the implication of this if the government fails to implement adequate measures to improve revenue generation?
Honestly, we have a Sri Lanka situation in our end, God forbid. That is it. The state will be declared bankrupt. The state can no longer provide security. Even as it is now, Nigerians are like local government unto themselves. They provide security for themselves. They send their words to private schools, private hospitals, everything you provide for yourself. So the question is, what is government doing for me? The basic thing that government can do is to give you protection, physical protection, which is security. That, again, we're paying ransom in order to sleep with our eyes closed. So if we cannot do one thing, then honestly, we should be prepared for the worst, which is killing corruption. It is something that must be done. You know why I say killing corruption? The war against terror in this country, when we're fighting the Boko Haram guys in the northeast, what happened? It has been turned into entity for generating money for the top shots. We saw what happened. So if you remove money from an economy, and then this money is frittered away without solving a problem, then there is a problem. Power sector, the same thing. How much was taken away from power sector? Under the past administration, $16 billion to generate darkness. Those monies went. And then there is no power. And no economy will survive without power. Definitely. We shouldn't deceive ourselves. No economy will survive without security. No any investor will bring its investment to an enclave. For instance, if you take Zamfara, Zamfara is supposed to be one of the hubs of our development. It has Fadama, right? It has livestock.
It has mining
potentials. But tell me, in all honesty, who is that mad person that will leave UK and bring his investment to Zamfara? So the problem of Nigeria is being caused by us, Nigerians. And until we change our attitude that, look, violence, kidnappings, and scamming people does not make any economy to grow. And that confidence, trust, is what will make an economy to grow in addition to peace. And we should work for peace. We should work for safety of investment. And I bet you our industries, the ones that are still surviving, will not be moving to Ghana or to Benin Republic.
All right. Thank you so much, political economist, Dr. Abdulrahman Abu Hamisu, for joining us on Daybreak this morning and, joining us in the discussion and enlightening us and giving us, an in-depth analysis on this topic.
Thank you for having me.
All right, with this, we've come to the end of Daybreak on Trust TV. Thank you so much for tuning in up until this time. We'll be back again tomorrow, same time, same station. I'm Dashan Husseina Usman. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for spending this part of your morning with us. Do it to join us same time, same station tomorrow. My name is Stella Yaji. Do have a pleasant day.